This graphic illustrates the three-step cycle of the performance dialogue at McGill, that's to say, planning for performance, monitoring the performance, and assessing the performance. The components of individual work objectives, the behavioral competencies, and the development plan are common elements in all three steps. However, the way they're dealt with in each cycle step is unique. In terms of knowing more about when your yearly cycle or reference period should start and end, we recommend that you get in touch with your unit, department, or faculty human resource representative. There's some variation from one unit or faculty to the next. The most common reference periods are from June 1st till May 31st and September 1st till August 31st. These dates are determined by the unit leader based on time needed to plan around university priorities and opportunity to mobilize their respective teams. What is important is that the reference period meets the team's needs and that everyone is aware of the expectation and of where they are in the cycle. So let's talk a little bit more about the first step in the cycle, the plan and the individual work objective component. Individual work objectives must be in alignment with both your unit and department's strategic objectives as well as the job description. Developing individual work objectives clarify the employee's individual contribution in supporting the unit or departmental objectives. It makes clear the expectations whether the employee is working on projects or more day-to-day needed functions. Recognizing this alignment can maximum employee engagement and make the tasks more meaningful as you and/or your employee track achievements and challenges throughout the year. Everyone wants to know that they make a difference in the bigger scheme of things. An individual work objective is a mutually understood agreement about a work outcome that a staff member is expected to achieve during the reference period. It can be a task frequently performed by the employee that should be recognized and perhaps even quantified. It can, of course, be a project or specific mandate, and an objective can also be related to the employee's professional development. We'll look at that a little more later in this presentation. One way to write the individual work objectives is to apply the SMART objectives technique, which applies to both tasks and development. What follows are guidelines to help you as you try to keep it meaningful and concrete for both you and your employee. So let's look at each element that makes up a SMART objective. First, you want the objective to be specific. Vague objectives like work with employee or students might create confusion and reduce the chances for success. With whom, in what context, by when? The next element is to have an objective that is measurable. The goal is to identify and agree, supervisor and employee, upon how the achievement of the objective will be measured. Common examples of measurement can be around delivery. For example, with a 48-hour turnaround time, 90% of the time, the quality with a 80% satisfaction rate as reported by students, or cost, reducing costs by 20% or X amount of dollars. The next element using the SMART technique is to ask the question, is the objective achievable? One thing we want to avoid with this criterion is to create objectives that are not achievable because they're just too big or too complex in the current context. The realistic element is there for you to try to answer this question. Is this objective realistic in terms of existing skills, expertise, conflicting priorities, availability of necessary supports, and so on? If skills development is required, a plan can of course be agreed upon in the context of performance dialogue. The last element is time. Time allocated to the objective. You want to specify a time frame to avoid surprises and to collaborate on eliminating potential obstacles to on-time completion. It is recommended that both the supervisor and the employee commit to keeping the dialogue open throughout the year and to adjusting as needed. As a supervisor, you want to make sure you're helping to identify and remove potential obstacles on the path to celebrating the achievement of milestones throughout the year and to ensuring that the employee has the means to meet the objectives through training, resources, prioritization, etc. As an employee, you also want to make sure that you take responsibility to identify and flag potential challenges as they emerge or even before. Your success is the success of the unit and organization. We would add to the SMART objective technique an important reminder to keep objectives meaningful. Measures without meaning can be counterproductive. and impossible objectives can be demotivating for all concerned. To give you an idea of what we're talking about, let's look at an example of individual work objective and develop it further by applying the SMART technique. The individual work objective could be to do training. Do you think that this objective is complete and that you would be able to properly assess it at the end of the year? Let's look at how we could improve on it. Using action verbs such as prepare and deliver is a good way to identify what you are really looking for. In this case, we want our employee to prepare and deliver financial system training. A way to be more specific is to identify to whom the training is targeted. All financial coordinators within our unit. Is the objective achievable? Yes, it is. Is the task feasible? Yes, the current employee possesses the expertise and has the support needed to undertake the task. Is the objective realistic? Are sufficient resources available? Resources within our unit are committed to this activity. However, should resources be required, for example IT, from outside our unit, considerations must be made to their priorities as well. The interdependencies are critical when considering a task or project that extends beyond your unit. The supervisor can play an important role in paving the way, particularly when the support of external services is required to ensure success. Is there a time frame specified? The objective should be completed for the end of the calendar year. Again, we recommend that you check periodically throughout the year to avoid surprises and maximize your impact. So, overall, we can say that this objective is SMART. So prepare and deliver financial system training to all financial coordinators within our unit by the end of the calendar year.